Welcome to Zero Filter by the podcast where we say the things people think but rarely admit. No sugarcoating, no pretending, no safe answers. Just real conversations about relationships, self awareness, boundaries, emotional patterns, and uncomfortable truths people spend too much time trying to avoid. Because sometimes the problem isn't that you don't know, it's that you do, and you're avoiding it. This is a space for honesty, the kind that makes people uncomfortable, the kind that forces clarity, the kind that changes you. I'm EA, and this is Zero Filter. Let's get into it. You're not confused. You're avoiding the truth. You're not confused. You just don't like the answer. And instead of facing it, you keep buying time, hoping something changes so you don't have to make a decision. But here's the problem: the longer you stay in confusion, the more damage you quietly allow. And most people don't realize that until they already lost too much. Today, we're talking about something people hate admitting, especially in relationships. That feeling of being unsure, not knowing what to do, needing more time, waiting for another sign, waiting for more proof, waiting for certain. Most of the time, that's not confusion, that's avoidance. Because real confusion comes from lack of information, but most people already have the information. They just don't want to accept what it means. Because acceptance requires action. And action usually comes with loss: loss of a person, loss of potential, loss of the future you imagine. So today, we're breaking that down. Why clarity feels uncomfortable, why people delay decisions, the signs you already know the answer, and the real cost of staying in confusion. Because sometimes the truth isn't hidden, it's just inconvenient. Clarity feels uncomfortable, not peaceful. People think clarity is supposed to feel calm, like peace, like relief, like some magical moment where everything suddenly makes sense and you feel better. That's not reality. Clarity is often painful. It's sharp. It's uncomfortable. Because clarity usually arrives holding bad news. It tells you this person is not for you. It tells you they're inconsistent because they choose to be. It tells you effort shouldn't need decoding. It tells you love shouldn't feel like constant anxiety. And the reason people resist clarity is simple. Clarity kills hope, not healthy hope, fantasy hope. The kind built on potential instead of reality. The kind that says, maybe if I want, the kind that says, maybe if I wait, maybe if I explain better, maybe if I love harder. No. Sometimes, clarity is simply realizing that what you're trying to say was never stable to begin with. That hurts. Because now you have to stop romanticizing what's actually draining you. People delay decisions to avoid loss. Most people are not afraid of making the wrong decisions. They're afraid of grieving the right one. That's the truth. Because choosing clarity often means choosing discomfort, walking away, letting go, accepting disappointment, sitting in silence where someone used to be, facing your own loneliness. And people will do almost anything to avoid that. They stay in almost relationships. They stay in situationships. They stay in inconsistent dynamics. They stay where they are tolerated, not chosen. Because uncertainty feels safer than finality. At least, uncertainty leaves the door crack open. At least, uncertainty allows fantasy. At least, uncertainty lets you pretend there's still a chance. But every extra month you stay, you invest more emotion into something that already showed you its limits. Now leaving feels harder, not because the relationship become healthier, but because your attachment got deeper. And that's where people trap themselves, not in love, in delay. Signs you already know the answer. If we're honest, there are always signs. You just keep negotiating with them. You feel anxious more than secure. You overanalyze simple things. You're constantly trying to interpret behavior instead of receiving consistency. You keep asking your friends what they think. You keep replaying conversations. You keep checking your phone. You keep saying, I just need to understand. No, you understand. You just don't like it. Another sign? You keep having the same internal conversation over and over. Should I stay? Should I leave? Am I asking too much? Am I overreacting? That repetitive loop is not confusion. That's resistance. Because when something is truly aligned, you don't have to keep convincing yourself. Peace doesn't require persuasion. Consistency doesn't require detective work. Clarity doesn't need 10 seconds opinion. You already know. Your intuition said it first. Your logic arrived later. The cost of staying in confusion. This part matters most because staying confused is not neutral. It costs you. It costs time. It costs emotional stability. It costs self respect. And the biggest one, it costs your trust in yourself. Because every time you ignore what you know, you teach yourself that your own instinct cannot be trusted. That's dangerous. You start normalizing disrespect. You start shrinking your standards. Start calling survival patience. You start calling inconsistency potential. You start calling emotional exhaustion love. And slowly, you become someone who accepts less just to avoid being alone. That's the real damage. Not heartbreak, self abandonment. Because deep down, you know. You know when you're settling. You know when you're forcing. You know when you're staying because leaving feels scary. And every day you stay there, you move farther away from yourself. Let me be the direct. You're not stuck because the situation isn't clear. You are stuck because you are hoping reality changes without requiring courage from you. You want truth, but only if it arrives gently, only if it doesn't cause you comfort, only if it doesn't force you to let go. That's not clarity, that's negotiation. You are negotiating with reality, trying to make it say something different, trying to force potential to become proof, trying to turn inconsistency into commitment, trying to turn emotional breadcrumbs into love. And at some point, you have to ask yourself, am I actually confused? Or am I addicted to hope? Because those are not the same thing, and one of them will destroy your peace. So ask yourself honestly, what truth have I been delaying because accepting it would require change? If this situation stayed exactly the same for the next 6 months, would I still choose it? Am I waiting for clarity? Or am I waiting for permission to leave? And maybe the hardest one, do I actually want the truth? Or do I want reassurance? Sit with that because your answer will tell you everything. Here's the truth: clarity is rarely missing, acceptance is. You don't need more signs. You don't need another conversations. You don't need another late night overthinking session. You need honesty. The kind that strips excuses. The kind that ends denial. The kind that forces movement. Because staying confused doesn't protect you. It only delays the pain while increasing the cost. And eventually, the price becomes your peace. So if you've been waiting for confirmation, this is it. You already know. And the moment you stop pretending you don't, everything changes. This is Zero Filter by EA. If you want the truth, stay.